afternoon, evening, morning, whatever it is where you are watching this. What a weekend of rugby that was. I was pessimistic before coming into the World Cup, thinking, as rugby changed, I don't know if it's the sport for me anymore. And we're at quarter-final weekend, and not only am I back absolutely loving watching rugby, I'm also back playing rugby, which is pretty exciting. I did say I would go into that a little bit more, so I possibly will do that tonight. Sorry, I'm just having pug issues. This is what's about to start occurring. They're both girls, by the way, and Freddie is currently humping Ziggy, which is a nightmare. And then sometimes they swap over and she'll hump her. It's an absolute nightmare. This is really not good content, is it? Girls! Stop it. Why would anybody get dogs that breed like these two? Right, enough! So yeah, best weekend of rugby I've seen in a hell of a long time. Even the two games that weren't absolute stone cold classics were still real good test matches, weren't they? They were about as good as rugby gets. I mean, the intensity of all four of them games, you would not want to be any of them lads the following morning when they woke up, because it'll have been a few sore heads and a few sore bodies, I'm certain of it. But let's get started with the Wales-Argentina game. A good game to watch, definitely a good game to watch. Wales sort of just fell off it a little bit. They looked pretty all right to start with. It looked like they had it in the bag. Couple of occasions where they could have taken the points and they didn't, and they maybe should have done. But I think that the main turning point in this game was the Josh Adams reckless shoulder charge. The penalty that ensued off the back of that made a massive difference to just kind of the swing of the game and how everything was going. Sealed with that intercept try at the end. And yeah, I think it was just a bit of bad game management from Wales. I think Argentina, I mentioned it in last week's pod, but Michael Cheika is one of them men that a lot of lads seem to have a lot of respect for, but also seems to put the fire up people. I was listening to the Good, Bad and Rugby Australia podcast this morning, and I think it was Matt Gitto that was saying that obviously when he was Australia coach, he's seen Gitts go around the changing room, literally poking people in the chest. Not Gitts, Cheika, sorry, obviously. Yeah, poking people in the chest, telling them to sort the shit out, Bernard Foley, that sort of thing, at half time. And I think if you've got a coach like that can put a rocket up, yeah, but also does it in a way that makes you want to go out to battle for him, I think, I think that can sometimes be enough to win you a game. And that first quarter final sort of went to prove it. I wish I'd kind of backed myself a little bit more, because I know I said that I thought Wales would win by a heavy lot, but the closer it got to the game, the more I could see Argentina doing it. Again, I don't know why, I just had a feeling about it. But yeah, that Josh Adams shoulder charge was the turning point for me. Quite a lot of whinging going on by Wales as well. There was a point at which they were defending their own try line, and the entire time you could just hear Bigger in the ref mic going, "He's got his hands on that, sir, he's got his hands on that, sir, he's got his hands on that, sir." To the point where I don't know how we didn't turn around and be like, "Okay, can you just shut up?" But yeah, I mean, no hate to Dan Bigger for trying, because I mean, I do exactly the same thing. But so yeah, a good game to start the weekend off, but it only got better from there. The Ireland-New Zealand game is one of the best games I've ever seen. Unbelievable. The intensity of that game was a different level. I wrote in my little bit of notes before starting to do this that I think that on the day New Zealand were like a 9.7 out of 10 and Ireland were maybe a 9.2 out of 10, like to a man. And there was a massive turning point in that game as well, at about the same time as the turning point happened in the Wales game as well. The Geordie Barrett holding that try up, I mean, that is one of them things for the ages. You just don't really see that. You don't see backs holding up tries quite as effectively as that, and it changed the entire swing of the game. I think it made a massive difference. Obviously it made a difference to the scoreboard, but it just changed the entire momentum as well. That, and then Sexton missing that kick, I really felt for him. I wish there was a way that he could have kicked that kick, and still the outcome of the game would potentially have been the same, but I actually don't think that it would have. And I don't know, it was one of them, I think it was already written in the stars that because of all the chippiness in the weeks leading up to it and the cockiness from the Irish, that they were kind of due a little bit of humbling, as awful as that is to say, because they're a really easy team to get behind and support. And obviously that video at the end of Johnny Sexton's little lad saying to him, "You're still the best, Dad." I mean, heartbreaking that, isn't it? But adorable in equal measure. And it kind of shows you what rugby's all about. To that little lad, Johnny Sexton's going to be his hero for the rest of his life. It doesn't matter that he's just got knocked out again in the quarter-final. The Irish quarter-final curse doesn't matter to him, because even when he's 18, 19, 20, he's going to remember being over in Paris and watching his dad play at 37 years old in a World Cup quarter-final, which it doesn't really get much better than that. And you do just feel for Johnny Sexton, because the way he plays and the way that the Irish play, he probably could manage to play the next World Cup. They do enough to protect him and keep him ticking over, and fly half is one of them positions that you can sort of walk teams to victory playing if you're good enough, and the lad is definitely good enough. So hats off to Johnny Sexton, what a boy, and congratulations on an awesome career. I did read a funny tweet in the week that I'm sure some of you will have seen as well, of "Oh no, what we're going to do now, we've got no Dan Bigger and Johnny Sexton, who's going to referee all the games for us?" That is a very fair point, isn't it? Probably Owen Farrell, because he does his fair share of that as well, but that's what we like to see from our fly halves. But yeah, that Ireland-New Zealand game, Jesus, just an entirely different level of intensity. I did also see something else on Twitter that made me laugh over the weekend, that it's so weird how many Irish people are kind of celebrating the lads getting beat. I don't know whether I just got onto the super negative side of rugby Twitter, but it doesn't really seem the place for it. Like, that performance and that game, there was no loser. Like, there was one team that just overpowered the other. There was one team that turned up and every single man was a 9.7 out of 10, and the other team was a 9.2 out of 10. There is no losers. There's a winner in that game, but there's certainly, all of them Irish boys can hold their heads high after that game, I think, because you don't see intensity like that. And if you played that game 10 times, you'd back Ireland to probably win it 7 times at this moment in time. And yeah, I think it's just super, super unlucky, and it goes to prove that it is how you perform on the day that matters more than anything else. Which takes us quite nicely into the England game, because if you want an example of that it's only what happens on the day that matters, England are the team for that. Who would have thought that we would be sat here a couple of days before the semi-finals of the World Cup in 2023, and we will be talking about the only team left in that were unbeaten? And who would you think that was? I'd give you 5 guesses and you still wouldn't guess England. But yes, it is. Come on, the boys. It's us. We are still unbeaten. We might have limped our way there and scrapped and fought and, been super negative like we do all the way there. But we have made a semi. I also think that we've got the best team that we could have in the semi-finals. And I also think that if we manage to make it through the semi-finals, to get the All Blacks in the final, that is the best possible draw for us. We've had quite a bit of success against the All Blacks over recent years. That semi-final in the last World Cup, for example, being probably the best I think any of us have seen England play. So I think that there's not quite the intimidation level. I think they're smarting a little bit from getting beaten by South Africa in the World Cup final in 2019. Will probably be enough ammunition to get the boys fired up for that, because a lot of the lads that played in that game are still involved in the England setup now, so possibly is all the ammunition that they need. And I think the way that we play, we try and play like a poor man's South Africa sometimes, but I think in certain positions we've got, I don't know if the skill is the right words to compete, but I think a little bit of the game management to compete. I think we've got better players in very key positions. I think having Farrell on the pitch is completely, invaluable. You can't put a price on having him on the pitch. I think some of our ability to kill the game and be negative is even better than South Africa's sort of will to kill the game and be negative. We did see a few little bits of, interesting sportsmanship from the South Africans in the game last weekend in the quarters. Nothing that I've got any arguments with, by the way. Fullback taking the fullback or the winger taking the high ball and calling a mark, and instead of actually kicking the ball at the mark, took a scrum instead, which is something that you can do. You barely ever see it, because who would want a scrum that close to their own try line? Very smart from the South Africans, because they knew that there was a chance of them getting the ball back, and they knew that there was a chance of them milking a penalty, etc. Which is real smart. Obviously, Ches and Colby charging down that conversion attempt as well made a massive difference. That would have won the game for France if that kick had gone over. And it is those little fine margins, and I think because England play the game a little bit boring and a little bit sort of stoic, I think that actually could help us against South Africa, because I think it'll force them into either trying to play the game where we can maybe, they capitalised on every chance that they got in their game against France. They were the worst team by far on paper on the day. So it goes to prove that it could be the other way around for us. South Africa, we can let them run around with the ball all day. They can make the most metres. They can make the most tackles. They can make the most dominant collisions. But it's that scoreboard at the end of 80 minutes that matters. And I think, we've got more than one lad. We've got a few lads that can kick and are decent kickers. South Africa struggle with that a little bit, although Leboc's kicking was better on the weekend. But yeah, I think for England, I again just have a massive feeling it would be the most English thing in the world for us to be as shite as we were pre-World Cup. The boys do seem like they're starting to gel together a bit more. Some of the passages of play were a lot more fluent. I think Marcus Smith at fullback was brave as a lion. I don't think enough was made out of that. A lot of people taking the piss saying, he was only a speed bump for Semi Radradra. He was, but that's all he needed to be in that case. And he's not a big lad physically, but the shift that he put in and the performance he put in, I think was mega. And I think that he did just as good a job defensively as Freddie Stewart would have done in that. I think he actually probably did a better job because he's quicker. I think Stewart would have been left wanting a few times. We would have been able to use the excuse of he's just not quick enough and he didn't manage to get there in time. Marcus Smith didn't want to hide behind any of those excuses. He just threw himself at it, and he was an effective enough speed bump to sort of affect the outcome of whether Semi managed to get through or not. So you can't really say fairer than that. He doesn't have to be smashing him into touch and making it a dominant collision. I think too much is made of that sometimes, and I think just being enough to slow your opposition down is good enough as well. The Fijians always go for the offload, so unless you're absolutely nailing them anyway, the offload is gonna come out. So maybe just being a speed bump's quite a good idea. Gives a chance for you to get them 2 up tackles like that on the go. And I think it's testament to him as a character. I had to laugh at that picture of him after the game though. He always looks perfect, doesn't he? His hair is literally perfect. He's 2023 rugby's answer to David Beckham, isn't he? He looks immaculate all the time. He comes off the pitch still looking immaculate, even when he's put a shift in normally. And the lad looked absolutely fucked. So fair play to him. It's Wednesday night that I'm recording this, and there is talk coming out of the England camp that he might not be playing at the weekend and it might be his World Cup over. I'm not entirely sure why. He obviously got an absolute battering on Sunday, so no one's gonna berate him if he is actually injured or needs to go through the whole HIA protocol and stuff. That's fair enough, but hats off to the lad. I mean, sticking his head in there. He's come a long way since cowering away from the Joe Marler and James Haskell fight back in whenever that was, 2019 or whatever, when you squirted water in my face. That whole scenario. But yeah, hats off to the lad. Ben Earl, obviously unbelievable on the day. Like a steam engine that you can recharge after every ruck, after every break. The man never looks tired. He still comes off the pitch looking absolutely fucked at the end of a game, but in game he doesn't tire. He's relentless, and he made more meters than anybody else in that game, which is a proven statistic in terms of work rate and whatnot. But it was actually glaringly obvious in that game as well. He was running lines that you'd be happy with your 13 running, and he's a real serious threat. I genuinely think that you could play him. This is controversial, but I genuinely think that you could play him at 13 and he would do as good a job, if not a better job, than what Manu's been doing recently. And again, that's not to take away from Manu. He's been a bit of a legend in his time, but I think Ben Earl, he's some boy, isn't he? Do I have any other things to say about the in-game? Other than just how tense it was the last 15, 20 minutes. It got to it got to being about 30 minutes in, and I texted a few different people in a few little WhatsApp groups. Oh my God, we're going to do this. Got a good feeling. We're looking pretty good, and tempted fate enormously because we came back after the half-time whistle and sort of looked like, not like we'd given up and thought, you know, we've got this in the bag, but I think it was maybe just a little bit of a, because they've had so much pressure on them over the last however many weeks, once it maybe felt like the pressure would come off a little bit, and they took the foot off the gas a little bit, it just gave Fiji that chance to get back in, but not through want of trying on England's part, and I think they hung on and did what they needed to do to win the game, which is all we can ask for, really, isn't it? And I mean, I think we need to stop being so pessimistic. There is only one more game to win, and then we are in a World Cup final again. I think some of the lads that are involved individually, it will be their last tournament. Do you mind? Shut up, Ziggy. Shush. It will be their last tournament. I think, you know, the last international appearances for England at a tournament or at a World, definitely at a World Cup. Some of your lads like your Dan Coles, Ben Youngs, Joe Marler. Might even be some surprises in there as well. Some of the lads that we think of as being younger. I mean, Owen Farrell's 32, I think. 32. He's going to be 36 come next World Cup. Can you maybe not scratch your ass there? Because you're making... Come on, what's this? Come on. Yeah, 30. It's not guaranteed at 36, is it, that you're still going to be playing international rugby? So yeah, could be the last appearance for a lot of them boys, and I think that'll be playing away in the back of their mind a little bit as well. It won't be when they take the field, but it will be just throughout this week. You know, they'll be thinking, I want to do my country proud. This might be the last chance I get to represent England at a World Cup. So I think the pressure is actually on South Africa. We're the massive underdogs for this game, and I think they've thrived so far off the hatred that they're getting from everybody else. They're getting quite a lot of hatred from us over in England. So when you've got the entire rest of the world against you and half of your own country, that's quite good motivation for pulling your finger out and proving to people what you actually can do, isn't it? So I don't know why I've got a good feeling, but I have got a bit of a feeling, and I would be so proud if we made the World Cup final. I'd be ecstatic if we won, obviously, but even making it through to a World Cup final for this team is a massive achievement. Making it to a semi is an achievement, not so much given the group that we were given and stuff like that, but I think, you know, this tournament has gone to prove that nothing's a given, and it is just 80 minutes, mano el mano, and it's not always a case that the best team on paper wins either, and, you know, it's a game of chance at the end of the day. You've seen how a rugby ball bounces about, and that's quite a good reflection of what the entire game's like, really, isn't it? But yeah, unbelievable scenes this entire weekend, and the most unbelievable scenes of all was that first half of the South Africa-France game. I don't think any of us have seen anything like that for a long time. In terms of 40 minutes of rugby, you don't get better than that. It was just end-to-end stuff. It was like Harlem Globetrotters from both teams. It was just fling the ball around. It was really funny because often teams tend to go in the shell when it comes to knockout rugby and try and build a little bit of a lead, a little bit of a conservative lead, and just try and defend it. And neither of them did that. They were like, fuck it, let's just play, let's kick the ball around, let's see what we can do. And it produced an unbelievable spectacle. Like, if you wanted an advert for rugby, if you wanted something to show people of the world, this is what this sport is, and this is why it's so good, that would be what you would show them, that first 40 minutes. It kind of had everything that you'd want a rugby match to have. It was physical, there was high levels of skill, there was people taking a chance, there was people taking a risk, and yeah, I've never seen anything like it. I was glued to the TV watching it, and it completely reignited my love for rugby. I was absolutely buzzing. But yeah, you just don't really get better than that, and I think we should think ourselves lucky for watching that. And I think that there's been a lot of pessimism around the game and some of the stuff to do with the tackle laws and whatnot, and I agree, and I can completely understand, particularly in England at the moment. I think some of us are quite pessimistic with the RFU as a whole and the way that rugby's going, but this weekend particularly massively reignited my love for rugby. I mentioned at the start that if somebody had told me even a month ago that I would be back playing myself and be actually super, super looking forward to the rest of this season. I've only played one half so far of Darlington's game a fortnight ago, well, nearly a fortnight ago now, against Upper Eden, who are based in Kirby Stephen. And they were a great team and I had a great time. Played 40 minutes at 12. And I'm playing this weekend, like I said, we're playing against Workington at home, and it should be quite a hard-fought game. I was down at training last night at Darlington, which is the club that I've played for on and off, I must admit, since being sort of 18 and leaving girls rugby to go and play ladies rugby. And the turnout that was at the club last night was unbelievable. Tuesday night isn't even the main training night. There's girls down, there's ladies down. There must have been at least 40 of us out there, girls and ladies included, which is pretty impressive, and that's, I'm led to believe, nowhere near the number that we have been getting down, which is mega. The last time I played a full season for Darlington, we were struggling to get a full squad for a match day, let alone get numbers like that down to training. So I think that there is something sort of bubbling away under the surface, and I think, like I mentioned in one of these pods a little while ago, stuff like that on the world stage is just what needs to happen. You know, the F1 became such a thing because the Drive to Survive on Netflix, people wanted to watch it, people wanted to get involved, and they've seen their numbers and their equity and investments and stuff go through the roof. And the same thing can happen with rugby, and I think, you know, this younger generation is the TikTok generation. There was someone down at our training session last night filming the training session for a little bit of social media content. And I think that's super, super important. And I think, you know, rugby is one of them sports that attracts people with stories to tell as well, and people with interesting lives. And I think that we really need to play into the hands of that as much as we possibly can as well. That coupled with a really good product on the field as well, because I think we get a little bit caught up sometimes too much in the other side of things, in the admin, in the corporate stuff, all of that. And at the end of the day, it's a game of 15 people against 15 people trying to get a little egg-shaped ball over a white line to score 5 points and then kick it over the post to score some more points. It's actually really simple. There's a little bit of violence involved in the middle, a bit of brutality, a little bit of letting your anger and aggression out. And we shouldn't be trying to shy away from that in rugby. We should be trying to promote that as much as possible. And I think this weekend has been a really good sort of indicator of that. That coupled with the positive experiences that I've had from going back to training and getting stuck in and getting involved, I think rugby could be in a really, really good place. It maybe isn't across the board, but I think with the right people involved in it and the right sort of attitudes towards it, I think the game has got a long way to go. And maybe if, you know, Premiership rugby and some of the stuff with the RFU is getting close to hitting rock bottom, then it can only get better from there. And I think getting the younger generation involved and using some of the tools at our disposal that we use every day, the social media stuff, the TikTok stuff, getting people's stories out there, and making rugby a really marketable sport. And I don't mean that in the wanky way, I mean it in the, you want to come and run around and have a bit of fun, this is how you do it, and make sure that you're attracting the right people. It's like jiu-jitsu, like that's a sport that's seen a massive uptake in members and people wanting to participate in it, and it's because of the little bit of kudos that it gives you to be able to say, yeah, I do jiu-jitsu, I'm a purple belt, or I'm a brown belt, or I'm a blue belt, or I'm a white belt, and I've only just started, and it's so hard, but I love it. And I think we need to encourage the same thing in rugby. It does give you a little bit of status and a little bit of kudos to be able to say that you're a rugby player, but only if you actually are a rugby player. You need to be taken to the field and you need to be running around. You need to be getting stuck in with the girls and the lads that at your local club and getting involved in any way that you can, because that's what makes you part of the rugby family. Not just turning up on a Saturday and moaning about things or posting negative shit on social media, which we see a lot of. And I'm not going to get into that again this week because I had a little rant about that last week. But yeah, an unbelievable weekend of rugby. You've got a feel for the Irish, you've got a feel for the French. Awful scenes at the end with some of the French lads crying on the pitch. And I feel like I kind of got my way with all of the fixtures this weekend. I would have much preferred France to beat South Africa just for the narrative. But I didn't want England to have to play France in the semi. And I do genuinely think that we are going to see a New Zealand-England final. You are all more than welcome to laugh at me. come Saturday evening if that isn't the case, because I've made myself look alright, no, haven't I? But I backed myself with the New Zealand Ireland game, and I'm backing myself with the England South Africa game. I've just got a feeling in my waters. I don't know what it is. I think it's going to happen. But yeah, just all eyes are going to be on that screen on Friday. It's Friday night and Saturday night that the semis are. That caught me out a little bit, because I thought that they would both be on Saturday. But one's Friday night and one's Saturday night, I believe. I'm going to just check that real quick, because I don't want to be getting that wrong. So yeah, just to clear things up, the England game is Saturday night at 8 p.m. and the New Zealand-Argentina game is Friday night at 8 p.m. So New Zealand-Argentina comes first, and then it's the England-South Africa game. England beating South Africa on Saturday night. Yeah, that's all I have to say really. I am going to record a pod on Sunday morning, either on Sunday morning or on Sunday evening. So either before or after our home game against Workington. Hopefully be able to give you a little bit of behind the scenes content and some stuff like that as well from our game on Sunday. I'm going to be interviewing Rebecca Snook, who is ladies captain over at Darlington. I've played with Snooky for years and years and years. And yeah, she'll have some interesting opinions about the rugby. I had to ring her at the end of she rang me actually at the end of the Fiji-England game to have a little bit of a hot debrief, because I think we were both a bit stressed out about the outcome of the game and what was going to happen next. But so yeah, hopefully the next time I'm speaking to you about rugby, it'll be with England being finalists, and it'll be off the back of a big win for Darlington ladies at home against Workington. But we shall see. This is not the time to start shagging each other. Stop it. Ridiculous. On the beer candles front, just a little quick update. So we will be having a big website restock this weekend. I'm hoping to get it all up and active by Friday tea time, because I've got loads and loads of new stock to stick up on the website. And I'm hoping to run a little bit of a competition as well to win some stuff for Christmas. I've got a rugby shirt to give away as well off the back of this, so we can hopefully do a bit of sharing that about. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, it isn't just chatting nonsense about rugby that we do over here. We set this YouTube channel up initially to promote some of the stuff that we do with the business, so that is turning old beer cans into candles. If you want to see any more about that, just click the link here. It'll take you over to the Instagram. If it's not here, it'll be in the bio at the bottom of the video. But it's just at beer_can_dulls, so beer candles, over on Instagram. If you just type in beer candles, we should come up, because there's not a huge amount of idiots out there doing the same thing as us. But yeah, we got into talking about the rugby because we're passionate about it. Well, I'm passionate about it, and rugby and beer go hand in hand. This, by the way, is supposed to be a donut porter. It did have a little bit of head on it when I started. It's from Alpha Delta. It's out of this month's Northeast Beer 52 box. It tastes nice. It's called the Homer. It's like a flat Guinness with a little bit of a weird raspberry taste in the background. I'm slightly regretting my choice, but I only had the dark ones left out of the box, so I'm hammering into them. But yeah, we do beer reviews as well over on our Instagram page. We do post the occasional shorts on here as well, doing some beer reviews. And we're going to keep going with doing the rugby pods as well, because I really enjoy talking about rugby, and I think that, as I said before, the two things going hand in hand. There's a reason that it was the Heineken Cup, and there's a reason why it was the Guinness Six Nations for so long. I know it's not the trendiest thing these days to be all involved and interested in alcohol, because we're all meant to be having this new world epiphany and giving up drinking altogether, which I did do for 7 months of this year, just over 7 months of this year, and it made me miserable as sin. So I'm back to everything in moderation and having a beer when I feel like it, and playing as much rugby as I want to as well, because that's a nice balance. But yeah, as always, thank you for listening to me ranting on about rugby. For all things beer candles, head over to the Instagram, up there again if you want to see it again. We've got the website as well. Website link will be here. And yeah, as always, please subscribe, like, share, tell your mates, that sort of thing. We do really appreciate it, and we are trying to keep this content coming because we're doing it because we enjoy it primarily, and we're doing it because rugby's something that we think more people should talk about and more people should know about, and particularly more women should talk about, just like beer is something that more people should know about and more women should talk about as well, in our opinion. So that's why we like to keep the two things hand in hand. But yeah, that's enough for me for today. Come on, England. I'm calling it now. New Zealand, England final. And I've just got a feeling about it because it will be the most shithousery thing in the world for England to actually go all the way. And I am living for it. I am telling you that for nothing. So yeah, check back here Saturday night. There'll be a video up of me either hanging my head in shame or me doing a victory dance or something. Head up the Instagram if you're interested in anything beer candles related. Like, share, subscribe. And yeah, come on, England. Let's hope for some fantastic semis. We all like a good semi. Bye.